Good morning, everyone. We're learning Mishna is Erevin, Perik Yud, chapter 10, Mishna Hey, Mishna 5. Mishna reads, Lo Yamid Adam Rishus Hayachid V'Yashin Rishus Harabim. A little bit of a not typical case, at least for us. A person is urinating, and the Mishnah says he may not stand in a private domain and urinate into a public domain, Rishus Harabim, or stand in a public domain, urinate into a private domain. Now, I'm going to assume in the first case where the person is standing in the private domain and urinating to the public domain, the situation is a part of the public domain that is considered public domain, but it's not where a lot of people are necessarily going at that point of time. It's kind of off on the side, and therefore considered part of the Rishus Harabim, and therefore has the halachic status of that. And for that, the Mishnah says, if you're going to urinate from the private domain into the public domain or vice versa, that's called transferring something from the private domain to the public domain. Which means, and the same halacha would apply if a person would be standing in the public domain and urinates, got to make sure that he doesn't urinate. This is not very typical. Doesn't urinate, 4 cubits away. That would be pretty difficult to do. So that's not really relevant. But the point is, from one domain to the other domain, it's like transferring any object. Now, when you transfer any object, the halacha is that you're always transferring, always entails that you have something at rest in one domain, and you're transferring it and bringing it to rest in a different domain. The urine in one's body is considered at rest wherever you are. It is considered at rest there, and then when you release it, you're now transferring it from that domain to the other. That would be transferring from one domain to another that you may not do. So too, a person may not spit. That means he has some saliva that he needs to get rid of, and he's going to spit it. He cannot spit from one domain to the other because, again, it's the same idea of transferring. Now, this, again, the same thing would apply if, let's say, you're standing in a public domain and you're going to, now it says you're standing in the public, it says you can't go from public domain to private domain. You can't spit from one to the other. So what are you supposed to do? Just leave it in your mouth? So they brought down here in the notes that what you do is make sure that, in that same domain, you can spit out, you can spit. But if you're in a public domain, make sure you don't spit it more at 4 cubits away from where you are. It's got to be less than 4 cubits, because then you are transferring something within the public domain. Dalaram is 4 cubits, which you may not do. Rabbi Yehuda says, Af misha nitlash rukai b'fiv. Even if, let's say, we're talking about Af misha nitlash rukai b'fiv. Even if, let's say, a person is not spitting, he's at the point, though, that the spit has now become detached in his mouth. That means it's in your mouth. It's already separated. It's not caught in your throat. It's there in your mouth. And it's ready, it's detached in your mouth, and you're ready to spit it out. You may not go 4 cubits until you actually spit it out. According to Rabbi Yehuda, now, if a person has some saliva in their throat, that's considered part of them. They can walk as much as they want in a public domain. But if we're talking about that already, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that the saliva is detached and it's in your mouth, it's collected in your mouth, and it's ready to be spitting out, then it's considered detached from your body. It's not part of your body. It's like something you're carrying. And therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda, you can't walk 4 cubits in a public domain with that in your mouth until you spit. So what do? You spit it out. Make sure you don't spit it a long distance of Daled Amis, and then you're set to go. But to go ahead and leave it in your mouth and move Daled Amis, Rishus Harabim that way, that would be considered carrying. Right? Kinura points out that's not halacha. The halacha is not Rabbi Yehuda, which would mean that even at that point when the saliva is in your mouth, it's still considered part of you, and there would be no problem walking with it in your mouth in 4 cubits in a public domain. Have a wonderful day.